The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
California has been defiant, I think, is an understatement, or at least accurate, not an overstatement for sure, when it comes to the Trump administration's desire for them to become much more aggressive with deportations of undocumented immigrants. California has been resisting, and the Trump administration is now suing California. California has three state laws that the Trump administration wants removed. All of these laws were passed by the legislature last year. All of these laws, quite frankly, blatantly obstruct what is Trump's federal immigration law and mandate, and thus the argument is violate the Constitution's supremacy clause. The way that the supremacy clause is meant to work is that if you have a direct conflict between a federal law that governs states and a state law, by sort of default, in some general sense, the federal law reigns supreme. Now, it's very interesting because constitutionalists often like to assert states' rights, and they question that supremacy clause, except when it comes to policies that they agree with. And so in this case, you have I guess it's not awkward for them because they don't really care about hypocrisy. But what should be sort of an awkward circumstance for some of these Trumpists who really want California to start doing the deportations that Trump has dictated, has guided, but at the same time, they claim to support states' rights, which would suggest that they would encourage California to push back against the federal supremacy clause. In any case, it's a pending lawsuit. We don't ultimately know the direction that it's going to go in, but I think that this is very interesting, more so for precedent than anything else. Yeah. And the truth is, now I want to be kind of careful how I say this. Anyone that is deported as a result of Trump's dictates that wouldn't have been without them is arguably having their life irreparably changed. And that is potentially a tragedy, assuming the case is they want to stay in California. That being said, the more long-lasting question here is one of what decisions will ultimately be made in these lawsuits, because those will serve precedent. Because in 3 years, Trump might be out, or in 8 months, the Republicans might lose control of the House and or Senate. And a lot of the guidelines around this stuff is going to change. So that's why, for me, the more interesting part is, what are the legal decisions that are made? Because those are going to be the precedent going forward until there's new precedent overriding it.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, especially because the Trump administration doesn't have the best track record when it comes to these lawsuits.
No.
Like, you remember their travel bans were always shut down. I don't know if the transgender ban went to the courts as well, and that was struck down.
No,
but it never seems like they can get away with their policies.
What was so with the transgender? That's a good question.
Maybe they just didn't enforce it. The Pentagon.
I think what there was a court. See, now I'm confused. Was it the Pentagon that said we're not going to enforce a military transgender ban for now, or was it a court that said temporary injunction until there's like a final determination? Because you're kind of you're not going to be able to reverse the seeking out and firing of military transgender service members. So you got to be damn sure it's actually going to be policy. But anyway, with the travel ban, you're absolutely right, which is various elements of it have failed time and time again. And I'm not ignoring the fact that there will be deportations and have been because of what Trump has dictated. And that's not possible to undo. From the point of view of national policy going forward, these decisions to lawsuits like this are actually super important.
Right. I think there is a difference, though, between the Trump administration trying to change the federal policy and statutes by banning people from certain countries versus California choosing to defy federal law.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, just, from the outside looking in, I don't know if California really has a case to be made here. We'll see. Because immigration usually is under the purview of the federal government.
I don't disagree. Morally, I support what California is doing. I do think, though, that this is actually a lawsuit where maybe the Trump administration will finally get a win. Have you ever put together a message in a bottle and tossed it out to sea?
Sending out an SOS?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, you haven't. Okay, no, yeah, I love stinging the police as well. Yeah, I get the reference. Hopefully, our audience does. I've not either. It never occurs to me to do anything like that. When I'm at the beach, I have other things on my mind, and I don't usually have bottles, nor scraps of paper, nor pens.
Yeah, it's also not a good idea to put a glass bottle in the ocean, especially if that thing breaks.
Yeah.
can cut something open.
And technically, you're kind of polluting, right?
Oh, yeah.
Not even technically. You're polluting when you throw a bottle in the ocean. Anyway, the world's oldest message in a bottle was discovered on a beach in Western Australia. It was 132 years in transit after it was tossed into the Indian Ocean. It was part of an experiment on ocean drift patterns, and this is being called an extremely rare find by experts. Previously, there was a 108-year record for the oldest message in a bottle that was found. 132 years. It was a dark green glass bottle. I believe that the dark green glass better shields the paper from like from the sun breaking down the writing, the ink.
I wonder if they had options between glass colors at that time.
Probably,
maybe they did.
Right? Yeah, I mean, if you have green, you've done something to it to make it green, right? Or is green like a natural state of, I don't know enough about glass making to know whether glass is maybe green by default for some reason. Smaller than 9 inches long, narrower than 3 inches wide, found in a couple months ago in Perth. And it is a very, very interesting find. And the woman picked it up thinking it was a bottle, would put it on her bookcase or something like that. The note fell out when they got the sand out of it. It was damp. It was rolled tightly. It was wrapped up with string. And it turns out that it has German handwriting on it. And they didn't know, was it a hoax? Is it really this old? Because, of course, it's dated. And at least as of right now, it appears that it's real. And it's spectacular.
I'm surprised that it was preserved like how it was.
Yeah.
Still have the handwriting on it.
It's amazing.
Because I think they probably put a cork on it, but it was long gone.
Oh, the cork was
They
gone.
only had the sand remaining in the bottle.
Yeah.
So all that time being lost at sea, and yet the handwriting didn't wear off.
I would have been surprised as well myself if only if it had a cork would I have assumed I could have read something, and then I would have seen German and been confused because I don't read German.
Yeah, you would have thrown it away at that point.
I was recently in when was it? This is the story I want to tell in relation to this because I have no message in a bottle stories to tell.
Okay.
When I was in Miami for our end of 2017 break, I saw at the beach, I don't know if they're working as a team or not, but these guys who are wearing not like a diving suit, and it's not, what's the thing? Oh, not a wetsuit either, not really a scuba suit, but just sort of like compression gear. It's sort of like maybe similar to what you would surf in, but more for like walking around than for surfing. Like it doesn't have it's not a onesie, if that makes sense.
Maybe like for
it's like a top and a bottom. It's maybe for boogie boarding or something like that, yeah. Anyway, these guys with huge earphones, like huge over-the-ear earphones, way bigger than what you're wearing right now, and a metal detector. And they walk about 20 feet in the water, just going back and forth all day with the metal detector. And then they've got like a little metal digger with like a sieve, and they can pick up stuff that triggers the metal detector. And I assume that they're going through and they pick up maybe jewelry that has fallen off of people's fingers, maybe coins that have fallen, or who knows what. But I had never seen such a concerted effort. Like every 10 minutes at different depths, you would see one of these guys go by just very slowly with the metal detector and the huge headphones taking stuff out. To me, it seems very boring, but maybe it's lucrative. I don't know.
Yeah, did it look like this was just their hobby?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
Were they part of a business?
I couldn't tell if they were unionized in some way or working as a team.
It seems
I have no idea.
official if they all have those outfits and those big headphones or whatever it is.
Yeah, I have no clue. And I tried to pay attention when two of them were close to each other to see if there was maybe like, was there competition between them, or were they working together or something like that?
What
I don't
can
know.
you possibly find, though?
You probably find a bunch of coins, first of all, because people probably go in with their bathing suits on. They forget or that they have coins, and then as they're riding waves, coins slip out and sort of fall into the top few inches of sand.
Yeah.
You probably at minimum find coins and the occasional piece of jewelry.
Maybe like a ring
guess.
or something like that.
Something like that.
And I mean, I would be interested because I would want to look for historical artifacts.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine spending like a few hours doing that and coming up with 75 cents. I wouldn't be very happy.
And you know what? I actually thought the historical artifacts would be interesting, but typically these guys are not so far in. Let me put it a different way. They're only in enough to be in an area that would be uncovered when the tide goes down. So more than likely, if there was any real significant artifact of historical significance, you would think that when the tide is down, someone just walking on the beach would see it and would pick it up. Like,
Maybe.
my thought was, for the most part, it's stuff that's been dropped like in the last few hours. But if something's in the sand, I guess it's possible you find something.
Well, to circle back to the message in a bottle story, I think the bottle was actually on the sand and uncovered for a long time.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Rather than just floating around the sea for 100 years.
Which might explain why it was in better condition.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe because it was just sitting there and not exposed to sunlight and salt water, it's remained in better condition.
It's amazing no one found it.
Yeah.
After all those years.
But someone did now, and 132 years is now the record. I find myself moderately caring about the bottle, but I'm more interested sort of in like the preservation of the entire thing. Okay, we talked on the regular show about Beto O'Rourke winning his Democratic primary to face Ted Cruz in the Senate race in Texas in November of 2018. That is what we talked about on the regular show. Bigger picture, the Turn Texas Blue movement is really building a lot of momentum, and Republican Party officials in Texas insist Texas is red, Texas is remaining red. It's going to be this way for a very, very long time. But the enthusiasm with which Democrats have been voting in Texas is definitely notable, and a lot of it could be temporary because of Donald Trump. There's no question about that. But I think there's actually a lot to the Turn Texas Blue movement, and especially as we see demographic shifts, as we see Austin as a city, at least for a while, was growing with disproportionately progressive people. If that continues, although I don't know if it's slowed down, that will dig into the Republican advantage that exists in Texas. I find it to be a really exciting project. Not so much that this is where Democrats should put all of their eggs, right? I wouldn't put all of the eggs in the Turn Texas Blue basket, but there are going to be at least individual races that are worth fighting to the end, I think, for Democrats in Texas.
I wouldn't put all 12 eggs in there, but maybe 7 or 8, because if you think about it, if Democrats are able to win Texas in the presidential elections going forward, they're pretty set, because then they have California in their pocket, they have Texas in their pocket. Texas has like maybe 35 electoral votes. It's the second most populous state.
34, 36.
Republicans would have a really tough time winning in that case.
Now, the counterpoint to it, that would be, well, but in doing so, Democrats might allow Republicans to maybe take control of a historically blue major state. But that's not true. I mean, there isn't one. Like, Democrats have a very strong hold of California. Democrats have a very strong hold of New York. There really is no, what you're saying is that, and I think it's completely accurate, that if Republicans did lose Texas at the presidential level, they're screwed for a long time, because there's no big blue state that they're even close to taking over.
Yeah, because it's not as if the American population is staying the same. A lot of this has to do with immigration, right?
Yep.
So I think that's and remember, this could be a reason why Republicans join on in the effort to eliminate the Electoral College.
Oh, that's interesting.
And maybe they'll push for the popular vote just to have a chance.
I think it would have to get really bad in Texas for them to do that. But yeah, I mean, listen, the point is, as soon as Republicans think that they have a better shot with a different system, they'll push for a different system,
It'll happen,
right?
I bet.
The electoral popular vote difference has made it so that Republican losers of the popular vote have still won the presidency, right? So for now, this has benefited Republicans basically exclusively. As soon as that, if and when that flips, of course Republicans will say, hey, this system's outdated, we need a different one.
Yeah, and Democrats could even sign on to that too, because they could say, hey, we won 6 of the last 7 popular vote contests.
It's good for us too.
And we lost 2 of them somehow.
Now, Trump argued if it had been popular vote from the get-go, he would have run a different campaign. And of course, that's true, right? If you know that it's popular vote instead of electoral vote, you do run a different campaign. But regardless, the system we have has been disproportionately beneficial to Republicans. That's it for today. Talk to you tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.